These are the headlines we're following at this hour. The six-day Chuseok Thanksgiving holiday starts on Thursday with some 40 million people expected to hit the road. What you need to know to deal with the traffic. North Korea's ambassador to the UN slammed South Korea and the US for provoking, quote, immediate danger of nuclear war, justifying its nuclear and missile development for self-defense. South Korea's envoy to the UN called those remarks groundless. Team Korea continues its golden momentum at the Hangzhou Asian Games, adding 4 more from shooting, taekwondo, fencing, and judo, as the country also breaks its previous medal tally in swimming. Good afternoon. It's the eve of Chuseok Thanksgiving holiday, one of the major holidays here in South Korea, and a time for family reunions. And during the 6-day break, some 40 million people are expected to travel, causing heavy congestion on the road. Our Shin Ha-young tells us what you need to know to deal with the traffic.
Starting on Thursday, South Korea will begin the Chuseok holiday period, which has been extended to 6 days now that October 2nd has been designated a holiday for this year only. And with a longer break, the number of people traveling is also expected to increase. The government predicts a total of 40.2 million travelers will be on the move between today and next Tuesday, 27% more compared to last year. According to the Korea Transport Institute, in terms of returning to their hometowns, people prefer traveling in the morning hours of the day before Chuseok, specifically between 10 and 11 a.m. For the return trip, people have expressed preference for the afternoon hours on the day after Chuseok, which is Saturday between 2 and 3 p.m., as well as the afternoon on Sunday between 3 and 4 p.m. The institute expects the most holiday period traffic congestion the day of Chuseok itself, as well as on the day after. During the busiest hours, it could take up to more than 10 hours to travel from Seoul to Busan by car, a journey that can usually be done in around 6 hours. For returning to Seoul from Busan, it could take up to more than 8.5 hours. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport decided to focus on several key aspects, including enhancing convenience for travelers, expanding public transportation, and strengthening traffic safety. To ease the traffic congestion, the government is also going to waive highway toll fees for 4 days from Thursday. And with more people on the road, there will also be more temporary restrooms set up at highway rest areas. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
More grim data on the country's population front. The number of new babies born in South Korea hit a record low for the month of July, while the number of deaths was the highest ever for the same month. This as the country has seen its natural population decline for nearly 4 straight years. Our Lee Soo-jin has the details.
South Korea's population issues are posing a real challenge as birth rates continue to decline. Data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday shows that the number of births in July came to 19,102, down 6.7% from the previous year. That's the lowest figure on record for the month of July. By region, Chungcheongbuk-do province was the only area that did not see the number of births decline compared to a year earlier. According to an official from the agency, this reflects a continuing trend of married couples choosing to have fewer or no children due to growing associated costs, including education. Meanwhile, the number of deaths in July rose 8.3% on year to 28,239, also a record for any month of July. This brought the decline in natural population, calculated by subtracting the number of deaths from the number of births, to around 9,000. South Korea has seen a drop in its natural population for 45 consecutive months. The number of registered marriages in July came to more than 14,000, dropping 5.3% from the previous year. Recent marriage figures have been unsteady, with the number falling in April and then rising in May and June before falling once again in July. The agency said that further observation is needed to see whether this is a consequence of pent-up demand caused by COVID-19 restrictions. There was also a dip in the number of divorces in July, falling 0.5% on year to 7,500. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Business sentiment in South Korea has slightly recovered on the back of high performance in the service sector. According to the Bank of Korea on Wednesday, the business survey index in September for all industries rose to 73 points. This is 2 points up from the previous month, with the rise attributed to the increased number of Chinese tourists visiting South Korea and increased spending due to autumn festivals. However, the index for manufacturing firms fell amid stunted recovery in the semiconductor industry. The central bank predicted that BSI figures overall will stay the same for October. After hours of review, the Seoul Central District Court this morning has rejected the arrest warrant requested for the main opposition Democratic Party leader, Lee Jae-myung, who's facing multiple charges of corruption. The court said there isn't enough critical evidence to detain him. Our Kim Jung-sil reports.
At around 4 a.m. on Wednesday, Democratic Party of Korea leader Lee Jae-myung walked out from Seoul Detention Center after receiving the judge's decision.
I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the court for clearly proving it is the last bastion of human rights.
In an unusually long statement, Judge Yoo Chang-un said although there seems to be enough evidence of Lee asking for false testimony, there isn't enough evidence for other major allegations, including the Baekhyundong development project, where Lee was accused of breach of trust, costing Seongnam City 20 billion Korean won, or about $15 million. Regarding accusations of being involved in Sangbang-ul Group's alleged illegal money wiring to North Korea, the judge said, quote, "There's more room for disputes." The judge added that given the DP leader's social status, it's hard to conclude that he will destroy evidence. The prosecutor general made a rare statement on the judge's decision.
I think the court focused more on protecting the right to defense as political party leader while acknowledging criminal proof.
He added that the prosecution will conduct further investigation based on law and principles. The Democratic Party released a statement welcoming the court's decision and called prosecution against its leader a, quote, political retaliation by the Yoon government. The ruling People Power Party expressed disappointment over the decision, saying the court merely ensured the right of defense for Lee and that its decision does not give immunity from the allegations. The DP leader will most likely face indictment without detainment and go to trial, with the possibility remaining the prosecution seeking another arrest warrant. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
A large-scale military parade was held here in central Seoul to mark the upcoming Armed Forces Day. After a 10-year hiatus, the military parade returned to the streets, showcasing South Korea's latest military weapons, including the Hyunmoo ballistic missile, which is capable of striking North Korean targets precisely. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung has more.
South Korea on Tuesday held a large-scale military parade on the streets of Seoul for the first time in 10 years to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Armed Forces Day. It was held in the main commercial and business district in Gwanghwamun. Over 4,600 troops participated, with some 170 pieces of military equipment on display up close for the public for the very first time. Under the theme, A Strong Military, Robust Security, and Peace Through Strength, the Grand Parade was aimed at showing off the full might of South Korea's military while sending a strong message to the enemy. It's the first time for the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps to showcase their assets to the public in central Seoul at the same time. Key players leading the parade were South Korea's infantry fighting vehicle, the K-21, the country's main battle tank, the K-2 Black Panther, and the K-9 self-propelled howitzer. At the heart of the parade was South Korea's three-axis system, which ties together three military concepts that counter North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats. One of the key weapons mobilized to highlight the system was the country's homegrown long-range surface-to-air missile, designed to shoot down North Korea's ballistic missiles. The country's domestically developed ballistic missile, the Hyunmoo, was also revealed to the public for the very first time. The missile is known to have the ability to strike all areas of North Korea with very high precision. Surveillance drones were also deployed, and the Navy's cutting-edge Aegis destroyer, Cheongjo the Great, took part through augmented reality. The landmark parade was, for the first time ever, joined by some 300 U.S. combat troops based in the country. Their participation signified the 70th anniversary of the Seoul and Washington alliance. The last time a street parade was held on Armed Forces Day was in 2013. It had been held every 5 years, but the parade had been scaled down in 2018 in consideration of inter-Korean relations. Choi Min-dang, Arirang News.
North Korea's ambassador to the UN slammed South Korea and the U.S. for provoking, quote, immediate danger of nuclear war, justifying its nuclear and missile development for self-defense. South Korea's envoy to the UN called those remarks groundless. Lee Jae-myung has more.
Addressing the UN General Assembly in New York, North Korea's ambassador to the United Nations, Kim Sung, said Tuesday that the regime blames both South Korea and the U.S. for attributing to the current dangerous situation, slamming the allies' continuous moves to bolster deterrence against evolving North Korean threats. And due to threats posed by Seoul and Washington, Kim says North Korea is accelerating the building up of its self-defense capabilities, going as far as to say that the Korean peninsula faces the immediate danger of nuclear war. The ambassador also noted that both South Korea and the U.S. had made what he called hysterical remarks of confrontation with phrases such as end of the regime and occupation of Pyongyang, which he says is in flagrant violation of the principles and purposes of the UN Charter. Meanwhile, South Korea's deputy permanent representative to the UN, Kim Sang-jin, slammed the North's ambassador for making groundless, illogical, and absurd allegations. He questioned how many countries would actually believe North Korea's allegations, adding that their claims that South Korea and the U.S. are provoking the tension on the Korean peninsula are untrue and absolutely incorrect. In the meantime, South Korea's ambassador to the United States said Tuesday that the apparent strengthening of cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow is most concerning, adding that Seoul and Washington will not sit idly by. Ambassador Choi Yan-dong made the remarks amid growing concerns following the Kim Jong-un-Vladimir Putin summit in Russia that has sparked speculation that the two countries may be on the brink of an arms deal. Cho pointed out that an arms deal would allow Russia to secure military supplies in its war in Ukraine, while the North is seeking technology to address failures in satellite launches earlier this year. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
As South Korea, Japan, and China are seeking to resume the long-halted Trilateral Summits, senior diplomats from the three countries have agreed to do so at their earliest convenience. And for this, they're planning for a meeting between their foreign ministers first, possibly in November. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji reports.
Senior diplomats from South Korea, Japan, and China held talks in Seoul on Tuesday to discuss ways to resume holding trilateral summits between their leaders. This comes as South Korea, the chair of the meeting, is seeking to hold such a summit by the end of this year. Deputy Foreign Minister Chung Byung-won sat down for talks with Japan's Senior Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Takehiro Funakoshi, and China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dung Lung. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson explained that Tuesday's meeting signals that the three countries have managed to take their first step in resuming cooperation between them that has been stalled for the past 4 years.
Through the meeting this morning, the three countries agreed to hold a trilateral summit at their earliest convenience. Also, to prepare for the summit, they decided to hold a meeting between their foreign ministers as soon as possible.
The three countries are reportedly discussing ways to hold a meeting between their foreign ministers in November in Busan. There, they will discuss specific details of the potential summit, which was last held in December 2019. A meeting hasn't been held since then, amid the COVID-19 pandemic and strained relations between Seoul and Tokyo, due to diplomatic and trade disputes, triggered by historic issues that date back to Japan's colonial occupation of Korea before and during World War II. Separately, a Japanese media network reported that during Tuesday's high-level talks, Seoul expressed the hope of holding the trilateral summit in December. Citing an unnamed South Korean official, JNN specifically said the meeting will take place in Seoul sometime after December 18th. Over in the U.S., when asked about the possible trilateral summit, the White House said it respects the ability of countries to make their own sovereign decisions in the best interest of their people, just as the U.S. responsibly manages its relationship with China and other partners and allies. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
Saudi Arabia's newly appointed envoy to the Palestinians arrived in the West Bank on Tuesday to present his credentials to the Palestinian Authority. According to Reuters, Ambassador Naif al-Sudairi met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in what is seen as an attempt to address a U.S.-backed Saudi-Israeli normalization deal, something the envoy says is only possible if there is a major progress toward the creation of a Palestinian state. Meanwhile, Israel's tourism minister arrived in Riyadh on the same day for the first ever visit to Saudi Arabia by an Israeli cabinet member. Now, over in the Nagorno-Karabakh region of Azerbaijan, an explosion in a fuel depot has killed at least 68 people, while some 300 others were injured. The explosion on Monday occurred as ethnic Armenians queued to refuel their cars as they rushed to leave the Nagorno-Karabakh region after Azerbaijan's offensive in the Armenian-majority enclave. The cause of the explosion is unknown. Earlier reports citing Armenia's health ministry indicated that 125 people had died in the explosion, but it was later clarified that the number was related to last week's Azerbaijan's military operation in the enclave, not the explosion. Following Azerbaijan's offensive, tens of thousands of ethnic Armenians have fled the region. 100 years ago, during the Korean Empire era, a Western-style reception hall inside Doksugun Royal Palace in Seoul hosted foreign guests. That historical building is now open to the public after it was rebuilt in its original shape. Our Lee Jae-myung takes us there.
The doors to Dondeokjeon Hall, the state guest house of the Korean Empire, have been reopened to the public after around a century. Dondeokjeon Hall within the grounds of Doksugun Palace was built from 1902 to 1903 in a Western style to serve as a commemorative venue for celebrating King, later Emperor, Gojong's 40th year on the throne. It was later used for diplomatic exchanges and as a guest house to demonstrate Korea's determination to protect its sovereignty and self-designated status as a modern country on a par with Western powers. Dondeokjeon is reported to have fallen into disuse in the 1920s and was destroyed during the Japanese colonial era.
In the first floor's permanent exhibition hall, immersive videos depict historical events like the celebrations for the 40th year of Emperor Gojong's reign.
The reconstructed hall officially opened to the public on September 26th, featuring a special exhibition room on the first floor and a detailed exhibition on the second floor. The Cultural Heritage Administration completed reconstruction approximately 6 years after initial excavations on the site began in 2017.
I think the building was constructed very beautifully. I heard the architecture was influenced by the popular style in Paris, France, and I thought the reconstruction was done remarkably well.
The exhibition has a space that explores 100 years of memories and dreams for the next 100 years, and artifacts that provide a glimpse into Dondeokjeon Hall's history. Visitors can also see the Seoul Jingwansa Taegukgi, which is praised for its vivid expression of Korea's determination for independence from Japan's colonial rule. This superimposes the blue section of the central part of Korea's national flag and its 4 trigrams on top of the central red part of the flag of Japan. The exhibition, consisting of 5 sections, introduces the process of establishing diplomatic relations with various countries such as the United States, Germany, Great Britain, and Denmark, after signing an international treaty with Japan in 1876. The exhibition also sheds light on the lives and activities of various diplomats. On the second floor, visitors can enter an archive room designed with the motif of Western salons of the early 20th century. Doksugun Palace officials say that the exhibition's purpose is to reflect on the value of modern diplomacy by the Korean Empire, and Dondeokjeon Hall will continue to be a space that maximizes its utility as a cultural heritage. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
The fourth day of the Asian Games is underway in Hangzhou, China, and Team Korea continues its golden momentum, adding 4 more from shooting, taekwondo, fencing, and judo. The country also broke its previous medal tally in swimming. Our Matthew Ashley has the details.
In fencing, South Korea's Yoo Ji-soo has clinched the women's individual sabre title, securing the country's 3rd gold medal in fencing. The 30-year-old South Korean beat her Chinese opponent, Shao Ya-chi, on Tuesday by 15 points to 10. Her convincing victory in the final came after closely contested knockout matches in the round of 16 and semi-finals. The win is Yoon's first individual Asian Games gold. She has 2 golds from previous ASEAN team events and a silver from the Tokyo Olympics. In more gold medal results, Taekwondo athlete Park Hye-jin claimed the top spot in the women's 53-kilogram competition. The 24-year-old beat Lin Wei-chun of Chinese Taipei on Tuesday with a final score of 2-1. Park won the first round before being beaten in the second. But she bounced back in the third round, gaining an early lead and maintaining it until the end. The win marks South Korea's 4th overall gold medal in Taekwondo and the 2nd in its sparring division. It's also Park's first gold at an international multi-sport competition. In swimming, South Korea on Tuesday claimed 3 additional medals to bring their swimming total to 9 and surpassing the country's tally of 6 in the 2018 Games. The result means even greater expectations for South Korea's swimmers, with 3 days of competition left. 2 of the medals were silver, with 1 secured in the men's 4x100-meter medley relay. The team finished behind China after clocking a time of 3 minutes 32.05 seconds for a new national record. The other silver was won by Kim Woo-min, who finished behind his Japanese counterpart in the men's 1,500-meter freestyle with a time of 15 minutes 03.29 seconds. And the third medal, a bronze, was claimed by Lee Eun-ji in the women's 200-meter backstroke. And finally, South Korea got its first taste of gold in judo at this year's Games thanks to a winning performance by Kim Ha-yoon in the women's over 78-kilogram class. It's the first time South Korea has won an ASEAN gold medal in this weight division. Kim narrowly beat opponent Shu Xian of China on Tuesday after Kim delivered a large outer reap, or osoto gari, 43 seconds into the match. The move destabilized Shu and allowed Kim to suppress any attempts at a counter-attack. Kim's win came alongside 2 other judo medals for Korea on the same day. They include a bronze in the women's 78-kilogram and a bronze in the men's 100-kilogram events. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's a cloudy Chuseok holiday eve with some sprinkles. On and off light rain will continue through tonight. The East Coast could see more than 40 millimeters and the rest of the country could see 5 to 10 millimeters of on and off showers. But other than the East Coast, we won't really need an umbrella. Afternoon highs are 2 to 5 degrees higher than yesterday. Most of the southern regions are seeing highs in the upper 20s. Seoul getting up to 25, Daegu at 27 degrees, Busan and Jeju warmer at 28 degrees this afternoon. Skies will get cleared just in time for the Chuseok break. But if you're hitting the road early in the morning, there could be some fog, so drive safely. There will be a gradual drop in temperatures during the holiday, and we will be waking up to a low of 13 degrees in Seoul on Sunday. Make sure to have an extra layer when traveling. Many are coming down with a cold these days. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is all for today. Thanks for watching.